About 15 minutes in, we're dealt ace-king offsuit in the hijack. It's nice to be dealt a premium hand right away. I raised to 30, the button calls, the small blind calls, the big blind appears to be a recreational player, he 3-bets to 150. The big blind only started the hand with 950 total. I don't want to call and have the opponents behind me call. Ace-king is much better heads up than it is multi-way. I 4-bet to 400. I'm fine getting it in for 550 more if the big blind jams. The button folds immediately, the small blind also folds, the big blind is having a tough time deciding what to do. Ultimately, he calls for 250 more and has way less than a pot-sized bet in his stack. We're going heads up to the flop in a 4-bet pot in position. The dealer puts out queen 4 deuce with 2 hearts, we completely brick it. The big blind checks. I'm not really sure what to do with these stack sizes. There's a good chance that the opponent has the same hand as me, and perhaps I can bluff shove to get him off a chop. Maybe he'll even fold a hand like jacks. If he has queens or ace queen, we're in big trouble. That's a risk I'm willing to take. I'm going for it.
All in.
Once or twice.
It's up to you.
I always do it twice. I'm good with whatever you want.
Twice is fine. Well, this isn't good. We basically get snap called, and we could be drawing close to dead, or the big blind could be free rolling if he has ace-king with a heart or 2. We're running it twice. I'm expecting to lose both. Not exactly how I wanted to start the session. The first turn is the 6 of hearts. That isn't good at all because we're no longer beating flush draws. The river is the king of hearts, giving us top, but there are 4 hearts out now, so we don't have all that much showdown value. It's time for the second run out. The turn is the 5 of diamonds, giving us a gut shot straight draw. The river is the jack of diamonds, giving us nothing. We're not in good shape. The opponent called my jam, so I somewhat embarrassingly show my cards first. The opponent reaches to turn over his cards. That's never a good sign, but he shockingly has pocket 7s with no heart, so we actually end up splitting the pot. I'm really happy about that, and also extremely confused about some of the things that the big blind did. First, he 3-bet squeeze with 7s. That's not a move that you see very often. I don't hate it since sometimes he might be able to win 90 without seeing a flop, but he could have called for 20 more to close the action with a hand that plays really well multi-way. After that, he calls the 4-bet for 250 more despite only having 550 behind. Then he calls the jam on the flop without improving and is somehow actually correct. He reads me like a Dan Brown book and gets it in great. I have to get lucky just to avoid doubling him up. The interesting thing is that if he had played his cards face up, I probably would have done pretty much everything the same. Unfortunately, these boomers don't like folding. I at least make a tiny profit after the big blind and I split the pre-flop calls from the other opponents. I'll take it. Next, Rachel moves me to a seat in the main game where we pick up ace-7 suited in the hijack. Rachel says that this new seat is also lucky. I suppose that the first one was sorta lucky, but the verdict is still out whether she's really in tune with this sort of thing. I'm skeptical that she may not be able to read seat auras even in the slightest. This one is a straddle pot. I raised to 50. The big blind calls, under the gun calls as well. We're going 3 ways to the flop in position. It comes 10-10-3 with 2 spades. It checks to me. We've got the flush draw and 1 over. Occasionally I'll bet in this spot. Here I check back to guarantee that I'll be able to see the turn. The dealer puts out another 3. Ace high is likely good. It checks to me once more. I bet 40 to deny equity. It's a tiny sizing that people may not want to fold some worse hands like king high to. The big blind lets his cards go. Under the gun calls, still, I don't get the sense that he's strong. It's down to heads up, and the river is the 7 of clubs, giving us 3 pair. Under the gun checks. I'm probably best, not 100% sure though. I check back. I'm completely surprised by what the opponent called my turn bet with. Jack high? What were you doing?
You're exactly on that, just an ace high.
That's better than a jack.
I figure any hit wins.
The opponent had jack 6 offsuit. We might have won the maximum there. It looks like we're in a good game. We're dealt 10-9 suited on the button. A player in middle position raises to 30. The hijack calls. There's a good squeeze opportunity. We're going to be 3-betting this hand in this situation about half the time. I make it 130. I can potentially win $75 without seeing a flop. If I don't take it down immediately, my hand plays well in position. The initial pre-flop raiser folds. He's who I was most concerned about. The hijack calls for 100 more. We're heads up in position. The flop comes king 10-6 rainbow. We've got middle pair and some backdoor draws. The opponent checks. I'm in kind of a strange situation. My hand isn't super strong, but it could definitely be best. I bet 100 to keep control of the pot and deny some equity. This will probably get folds out of some hands like small to medium pocket pairs that didn't improve. Some hands that are beating me might call like king queen suited, and then some hands that I'm ahead of might call like ace queen, ace jack, and queen jack. The hijack matches my bet. I'm still not quite sure exactly where I'm at. The turn is the 4 of hearts. The opponent checks. I don't want this pot to get too large when I have showdown value. I check back for pot control. The river is the 8 of spades. I'm glad that it wasn't an ace, queen, or jack. If I was ahead on the flop and turn, I'm probably still ahead, unless I happen to have run into pocket 8s. The hijack is assembling chips. My read is that he's contemplating whether or not to bet as a bluff with a missed straight draw. I checked back turn for pot control. I don't like folding to bets after doing that on previous streets. If the hijack actually fires a 270 that it appears he's considering betting, I'm going to call because I don't 100% believe that he has me beat. Having a 10 is a key card, making it less likely that he'd have a set or 2 pair. He would probably 3-bet ace-king pre-flop, and I don't see this particular player wanting to bet for value in this situation with a hand like king-queen or king-jack, although other opponents certainly might. I think he'd prefer to check call in those instances, or just get the showdown for free. In my mind, it's more probable that a bet from him would be an attempt to steal the pot with ace or queen high. The opponent shows some restraint and checks. There's no need for me to bet since I doubt I'd get called by worse. I check back with the winner. The opponent shows ace-jack offsuit for a missed draw.
That's what I thought. I was gonna call if you bet. I thought you had ace-queen or ace-jack. Thanks.
Finally.
This is the first significant hand that's gone my way in a while. Even at this third table, I hadn't won or really gotten involved much at all during my time here, which is why the player at the table said finally. I get the opportunity just a little while later with king deuce of diamonds in the hijack. I raised at 30. This is definitely a revenge range mode pre-flop raise. I wouldn't advise opening this hand from this position unless there are very specific circumstances, like you just have the urge to crush someone's soul into tiny pieces. The button who I need to get revenge on, 3-bets to 100. Okay bro, it's about to go down. He's someone that's definitely capable of 3-betting me light. Doug Polk has told me that in heads-up play, king deuce is a great candidate to 4-bet bluff with. Let's keep in mind that we're not playing heads-up. This is full ring. My revenge range doesn't seem to know the difference. I 4-bet to 350 as part of a covert mission to retrieve some Bradley dollars. Bluffing against this guy has worked out exactly 0 times so far, but as a tribute to Aaliyah, I've dusted myself off and I'm trying again. For your own well-being, don't do some of the things that you see me do when I'm card dead and tilting. The button calls for 250 more. I've gotten myself into a nightmare situation. It's a 4-bet pot that we're playing out of position with a hand that we should have folded pre-flop. I'm digging holes larger than Shia LaBeouf ever has. The dealer puts out ace-ace-jack with 2 diamonds. We've got a flush draw, but could be drawing almost dead if we're up against aces, jacks, or ace-jack. There's no way I'm ever checking given how this has been played though. I close my eyes and bet 300 to rep trips or better. I'm hoping my opponent didn't connect.
300?
The opponent snap folds pocket 9s face up. The mistake I kept compounding ends up allowing us to win several hundred. We certainly don't deserve it. I was trying my best to punt off. We get very lucky with the flop given what the opponent had. Perhaps Rachel really has been supplying some luck. Just 3 minutes later, we're down ace-5 suited under the gun. I raise to 30. The hijack calls. The button 3-bets to 120. He's an aggressive player. I've got a hand that I can very reasonably 4-bet with, but I just did it a second ago. It seems weird if I 4-bet again. I'm not sure that I'll get credit for having a monster hand, especially since I 3-bet earlier with 10-9 over the same opponent's opening raise, and that hand was shown down. I don't want to fold either. I call since my hand plays decently well. The hijack also calls. We're going 3 ways to the flop out of position. The dealer puts out king jack 8 with 2 hearts. We've got the nut flush draw, 1 over, and a backdoor straight draw. I check. The hijack checks. The button also checks. We're going to get to see a free card. The turn is the 9 of clubs. It's no help to us. Our opponents don't know that though. I bet 300 as a semi-bluff to represent a set of jacks, 9s, or 8s, and ace-king. I'm mostly concerned about getting through the hijack since he could have most of those hands in his range as well. I'm not too concerned about the button because he probably would have bet flop with top pair or better. The hijack takes his last gander at his cards before folding. I only have to get through one more opponent. The button is taking a much longer time to consider what he should do. If he calls, I'm planning to bomb a ton of river cards, whether they're the shape of the box that Kurt Cobain has been locked in or not. Okay, this joke is slightly dated since I'm pretty sure that he's locked in a different shaped box now. After 45 seconds of sweating, the opponent folds. We get another big bluff through in a short span. I've been in so few spots where I could bet for value today. It was a grind getting through the session, but I'm fortunate that some of my moves worked out in order to escape with a small loss rather than a big one.